public hearing to order.
Madam President, I'll go ahead and get us started with Erica's help. This is a bit of a repeat of a conversation we had at our last council meeting when it was the LRO. We're here to address some changes to our zoning, specifically as they speak to what they call transfer stations. So the agenda that you have, agenda item number 5, 6, 7, and 8, all speaks to different chapters or subsections of our codified ordinances, and specifically our zoning code, to detail what it is that we're proposing to change. And one is real simple. There just doesn't speak to transfer stations. And so there's a definition in there of what a transfer station is. The other part of it is what is the application process if somebody wanted a transfer station. And then, and I thought Erica had a really good idea, and so that's incorporated in the amendment, is so that we have some oversight where one of these transfer stations could go, because it's really feels like it belongs in an industrial type of district, specifically in I-2. And if you're not familiar with our code, I-1 is a light industry and I-2 is more of a heavy industry. And so we didn't really want one of these if they came to be in a near a residential or a commercial or B2 type district. And so we've kind of confined them to an I-2 industrial district. And then another layer of protection is you just can't go to an I-2. You still have to get a conditional use permit. And the conditional use permit we're putting in the code, and I feel like I'm stealing a little bit of Erica's thunder, and so I'll just summarize it and I'll pass it over to her, is, hey, we'll be okay with one of these if one of them comes, providing you meet these conditions. And then we've spelled out those conditions. And so there's a certain distance from residential neighborhoods and fencing and stuff like that. And so, but at this point, I'll just kind of summarize and introduce what it is we're proposing, and then kind of let Erica get into the details of it.
Okay, I did send out some emails. Did you have any questions regarding the chapters? So there was 3 chapters to amend in the code regarding this new use. Chapter 1127, which is the use classification tables, specifically 1127.08, which is industrial uses. So in the email, all of the new language is in red. So that's what's being added to the code. So 1127.08, that's proposing the transfer station to the use classification table, and then you'll see a C on the right side of it. So what that means is that it's conditionally permitted, so the final approval would go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, as Mr. Gross stated. Then Chapter 1129, which is the use-specific regulations, that's where this new category is going into that section. So that's where all of the rules and the regulations of the facility reside, meaning when he spoke about the distance from the residential areas and the operations and fencing and things like that, that's where all of the specifics are when it comes to this new use. And then Chapter 1179, which is specifically 03 use categories, this adds the definition to the end of the chapter. So it's the same definition as in the Ohio Revised Code. And then there's one more chapter to amend, which is chapter that we're proposing to amend is solar energy systems, which is 1131.17. Prior to this, solar panel applications were approved through the Planning Commission. We are proposing to just approve them through the Engineering and Zoning Department as we do all other building permits. We review them anyway, so it is no different than any other permit application that we do in our office.
Good question.
Just a comment, I'm glad we're being proactive.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience have a comment? Okay, then we'll just adjourn.
The only thing I may ask is, tonight is the first reading, and we're not asking to suspend Rule 4, depending on, I think there was some discussion, maybe not having a council meeting July 3rd, maybe at the 17th meeting, I might ask you to suspend Rule 4 just to, you know, because between the LRO and the first reading, and, you know, feels like we had 3 public conversations about it, so.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I know you were questioning why we had to have another public hearing, but before was just the LRO,
The
introducing it
problem
to
with me is
them.
I just couldn't remember, and I thought, I know you told me,
Oh, okay.
but I needed my memory refreshed because that's my,
There's just always a lot.
yeah. And I get confused sometimes.
Yes.
But thank you for sending me that information.
How are you?
Good.
Sorry I'm late. Actually, I'm really not late, but,
You are.
on time.
The meeting was 6:45.
all right, I'm sorry I'm late.
Before then, over there.
But Chris Libo's not here, so.
Ooh. That's a good point.
Okay, I
point.
guess that's the end of the public hearing. Thank you. Ready? Please rise for a moment of silent prayer in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Frazier,
Here.
Weiss. Here. Addy.
Here.
Elder.
Here.
Libo. Reese.
Here.
Sweet.
Here.
Do you want to make a motion to excuse Chris Libo?
I would like to.
Instead of making a motion to excuse.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do we have that on?
Chris moved. Please.
Formality. all here.
Roll call.
Weiss.
Yes.
Addy.
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Chris is excused. Okay, council has a copy of the minutes from the last meeting and has had a chance to review them. Is there any corrections or anything to the minutes?
Oh, man.
Madam President,
Yes?
we'd like to make a motion to remove.
Wait till I
Yeah,
get to
we-
the
Oh,
agenda.
you're on the agenda, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't have the time. Sorry, I wasn't listening.
That's okay.
Easy racer.
So the minutes are the minutes of the last meeting will stand as they are. And now council has a copy of the agenda for tonight. Are there any additions or subtractions from the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to remove agenda item number 4.
Somebody want a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Do we need to say how long we're suspended for, or just that we're suspending it for tonight's meeting?
No, so I'll talk to it before, if you want, before you vote on it. I asked Councilman Elder to go ahead and make a motion to remove this agenda item. Myself and the mayor have had a few conversations with some of the townships, especially, and then just this morning, we had a brief meeting with a few of the townships and the county on the distribution of local government funding. And so after those discussions, we decided that it would be best to remove the agenda item and not vote on anything yet. The city, the county, some of the townships, some of the villages are going to get together and kind of try to come up and see if there is a consensus that we could kind of come to maybe find a different allocation of the local government funding, but something that is amicable to everybody involved. And so rather than having council keep this on our agenda and actually take action on it, I thought it would be best, and the mayor and I both did, if we removed it from the agenda, either by tabling it or by moving it. And the more I thought about it this morning or this afternoon and in discussion with the law director, I think it's just cleaner to remove it. And then whatever we might come up with and bring back to council, whether we're in favor of it or not in favor of it, again, we can get it on council's agenda at that point, have some more discussion about it. So at this point, we're just asking to remove the agenda item, and then we'll be back to, we're gonna have some meetings, and probably, hopefully later this summer, early fall, bring something back to council, is the
okay. John Elder makes a motion to remove item number 4 off the agenda, and Seth Frazier seconds. Roll call.
Addie,
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Sleek,
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Removed.
Madam President,
Yes,
I
sir.
would like to move to remove item 3 from the agenda as well.
Okay,
Sorry for my voice.
that's okay.
I'll second.
They get their voice together.
I know.
Jim Sleek makes a motion to remove item number 3 on the agenda. John Elder seconds. Is there any comments about item number 3?
I asked council to remove because of the submissions with the time. Some other issues. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call?
Elder,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Sleek,
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Addie.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, I guess we can start the readings.
Third reading of ordinance adopting the recommendation of the planning commission to rezone in-lots partial number 34-50-00-4088-00 in the city of Fremont from I2 general industrial to B2 general commercial.
Move to adopt.
Second?
John Elder moves to adopt. And Christine Weiss seconds. Are there any questions or comments from council? Any from the audience? Okay, roll call.
Reese,
Yes.
Sleek,
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Addie,
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Next.
Third reading of an ordinance adopting the recommendation of the planning commission to rezone in-lots partial number 34-60-00-0082-02 in the city of Fremont from R1 single-family residential to R3 multi-family residential.
I move to adopt.
I second it.
Okay, Denny Addy moves to adopt. Jim Sleek seconds.
Yeah, Madam President, I think we know what this is. Here is a lot that is part of zoning, we're determining a different type of use for it, and that's the extent of your decision today. But I wanted to just kind of talk about it a little bit. If I were giving you an economic development update, and as part of my update, I said to you, in the next 24 months, the city of Fremont is expected to see close to $40 million worth of investment. That would be pretty exciting. That's huge for a city like Fremont. Well, that's not a lot, and it's even better than that. Over the next 24 months, the city of Fremont is expected to see approximately $38 million worth of investment, not in the entire city, but on the east side of Fremont, that side of the river. I've shared some of those numbers to you before. You saw it in the news messenger. Fremont Federal Credit Union, $13 million investment. Their corporate headquarters on 5th Street. County BMS, close to $11 million in those two projects alone. You have $24 million. The Mulberry Street project, if it goes through, is expected to be a $4 million investment on the east side. And you continue to have KF Ventures, which is expected approximately $3 million worth of new houses each year for the next 2 years. When you add all that up, you get $34 million. Well, the other announcement is this week, we applied for a grant, the Smart Streets program, and it's close to a $4 million street project on 5th Street. That we feel confident in this grant, and then we would be redoing 5th Street from the bridge up to State Street. Those numbers, between those 5 projects alone, are $38 million worth of investment on the east side. I'm 52. I can't remember a time in my life, that window that we've seen that type of investment in Fremont, let alone on the east side. And I think that's really something we can be excited about and should be excited about, that other people are recognizing what we know, that Fremont is worth investing into. It's worth spending your money, and the rest of the world is recognizing what we already know. So these are exciting projects that are important to the city of Fremont, and I'm excited about each and every one of them because they address needs. You know, approximately in the next 24 months, 120 jobs being located to the east side, 120 new residents between the housing projects I discussed. And so you will see an influx of approximately 240 people for the next 24 months. We've not seen an investment on the east side like that in our lifetime, and I don't know if we'll see it again. I hope so. And I think this is the catalyst to a much greater investment, not only in the Fremont, but specifically to the east side. Thank you.
I have a question. So in that investment opportunity, we hear about the development of Fifth Street because of those investing in Fifth Street though as well, right? You're applying for a government grant to redo the street. What could we commit to the community as far as Millbury Street's investment? Is there anything we can foresee in the future of looking at planning for, much like we did this year of 5 streets being rebuilt? Can we look at what streets need to be rebuilt so we can ensure to the public that we're listening to what their wants and needs are, so it can make it better for the community as well?
Yeah, we typically inside the city, and it's not just Fremont, it's government anywhere, you try to stay out of the way of private sector development.
Absolutely.
And so you always reassess the infrastructure in and around the development once it's complete. So a good example here recently, even on the east side, is Crown had an expansion. Crown Battery expanded 52,000 square feet. Didn't ask for any help from the city with their build. But if you're familiar with Bloom Road, it actually goes Bloom Road and you make a 90-degree turn on Majestic and it goes back. But on paper, there's a paper street that if you, Bloom Road extends past Crescent into Crown. And so what Crown, in their planning stages, came to the city and said, we're planning this expansion. It would be a lot easier for logistically for us as a manufacturer if Bloom Road could come into Crown, and that would be our inbound route, and then our trucks could exit off Majestic. And so everything is a clockwise logistical setup. We immediately went into action. We put a plan together. Our engineer's office was great to look at that. And that was, I think, a $323 million, or no, sorry, what's the big number? $323,000 project. Out of our city funds, we only spent $23,000. $300,000 of that came from the state. And our whole process, and this was more than a year in the making, was we never wanted to be in Crown's way. We'll reassess infrastructure, and that's what we did. You build, and if you're okay, we'll stagger ours by 6 to 8 months, and that's what it did. They were kind of under roof by winter, putting the finishing touches on spring, and then by April, we were out there doing some road
We worked with Crown directly. We worked with RGP. We worked with the Economic Development Corporation, and we saw how state funding that would help offset the cost of that project. So it was a true private-public partnership, and your question about this specific project, I know you weren't on council at the time. The city went through a very, very strategic assessment process, which was a summer-year process that the city administration presented to city council to grade the roads throughout the city. It doesn't take anyone that doesn't have that skill set to drive down and see that there are many streets in the city that desperate need of repair.
Right.
The challenge that we face every day in the administration and as a council, in fact, it was the same exact conversation we had this morning with the township trustees and the other officials around the county and everywhere else you go, is infrastructure costs and coming up with the dollars to fulfill the need of meeting the infrastructure needs. And there's many reasons why we don't have those dollars, and it's not because of misspending on our administration. It's because of local government funding dollars that have been cut from the state and other in other areas, and we're ultimately trying to make up the difference. And we've said this for 4 or 5 years now, since COVID, that we only have a certain level of local dollars to put into the side streets from our general fund. The grant that we just are recently applying for North Fifth Street, and you have other grants on here too tonight that we're asking for your approval on to submit for, is that grant is a 95-5 grant. 95% would be paid if we were successful enough to get this funding, and the city would only be responsible for 5%. Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Well, 5% of, I know you're good at math, what's 5% estimated of $3.5 to $4 million? It's about 700,000 with engineering fees. So that's still 700,000 that we have to prepare for today for 3 years or 2 years out. And then 2 or 3 years out, the auditor and my administration, we work close together to anticipate these projects. That's 700,000 that year that we can't go put into these side streets.
Agreed.
So unless we get some type of income tax increase in the city, they're already looking at, if you're paying attention to what's going on right now, they're looking at property tax. Does that need to be fixed? Absolutely it needs to be fixed. I think it's a problem. I think everyone can probably agree it's a problem. Is eliminated as the solution? I don't think so. But if you don't know that when you get your property tax bill in the mail, and if you don't pay that in your mortgage, that hits you every 6 months, and property values, it's affecting real life people that are dealing with real life problems, or real life city dealing with real life problems. So, not ducking your question, I'm answering your question in a whole, because we have to look at things from a whole, not just a specific project. Could Mulberry Street be in the wheelhouse to get some work done in the next several years? I'm not saying it can't. Is there a plan today? I'm telling you there's no plan today. I will also tell you that there are plans for streets including Mulberry, but what do you consider a plan? Do you consider a plan a specific plan you want a date and time, or are you asking if there's a plan for Mulberry Street to be in the total package of looking at the streets being addressed? The answer to that is yes. When we looked at the 2025 budget, what we went over with you guys is, when we prepared that budget, we went through a very thorough budget process. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we went over a PowerPoint on that specific budget. A lot of people from the public weren't here from that, although that was made available to the public. And we were able, with the budget, to allocate around $500,000 to some side streets. And we tried to work with the engineer's office to strategically plan those side streets. Well, one of the reasons why we planned the side streets that we did is because those streets definitely needed it, right, over on the east side. The rec center is the St. Joseph Street. We all know how bad that parking lot was. Remember, we got a significant federal grant to redo that parking lot that would have otherwise been out of our general fund, right?
Agreed.
And then St. Joseph Street, that's an entry point. We host AAU tournaments from people all over to go into the rec center. So I get complaints about that street, even though it's a residential street, it's a highly traffic traveled road. The other two streets, which was Morrison, I think, correct?
Yes.
And then I think Willow. It's easier when you do a couple of streets that are closer together because it saves cost, because they're already out for that. They're already there doing the work. Yep. So I'm trying to give you. There's not a yes or no answer to your question. It's a strategic. Hopefully, it's a strategic. And a plan is always subject to change. That's why they call it a plan. No. But the plan that we have been doing, the recipe that we have been following essentially, I'm saying this to you, but the members of council that have been here a lot longer have seen the success of the investments that the city has received, in my opinion, because of specific strategic planning, which is why council has been, I believe, very supportive in spending some of the dollars, whether it's been on the hotel study or the housing study, or even being transparent about the road projects and the infrastructure projects and the water costs and the sewer costs and all of those things. this project that, because I seen some of the comments on Facebook that this is the mayor's project, right?
Yes.
So, if you need a new mayor, vote for a new mayor. But to see $32 million invested in the city in the east side and over the amount of, there's been more homes built in the city in the last several years than we can find in the city's history. You know, so we understand the impact of this in the community. But the truth is, the ultimate truth is, this isn't my project. I don't have anything to do with the project. Some of the questions were, well, how can he do this when the people already voted it down? Well, that's the process. I can't decide on if something gets voted down if it's brought back. Like, that's up to an individual developer to go through that process and go through it all over again. If it gets voted down, they can go through the process again. Am I correct, Mr. Valley?
Actually, you are, Mayor. President Heffen called me yesterday and asked me to check into that, so I'm verifying. There is no
We had a couple
ballot
conversations.
ban, as you would call it. Once you go through the process, you just do the process again and again. But I will say, AI said, obviously, if you lost twice, you might think, or lost once, you might think about it the second time. That's what AI said when I asked the question.
You're going to be asking AI.
Well, it popped up when we put it on your phone.
No,
But I guess my, if I could, I'm so sorry.
No,
to
you're
my my point here tonight is, this is a city council decision.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say it publicly. I've been in this position for 10 years. I've never called one of you single council members ever and told you how to vote on anything ever since I've been in office.
Never had.
I just want to make that clear, because I've been accused of that. I've never called and said, you need to vote this way. And I've always said, anything that comes to council, I believe is best for the city of Fremont. Then don't support it. If you do think it's what's best, then make the decision for yourself. The only thing I can do as the mayor is be transparent with the public, be strategic in planning, and try to communicate with what we're doing the best way that we can. And I think I've done a damn good job doing that with council and the public.
Great.
And I think economic development has been the #1 priority in my administration for the last 10 years, including public safety and supporting the police department, including engaging the youth. I mean, there's over 80 free programs for families and seniors going on right now tonight. We can't even get to them because we're in all these public meetings. So, to Mr. Gross's point, always take into consideration what the voters want. That's our job. But we have to represent everyone and not anyone. And those are my final comments. Thank you.
Mayor Sanchez, on what you just finished saying, so you picked St. Joe's, and I say you know.
Our administration, myself, the auditor, the
Okay.
safety service
So
director,
we picked
the city auditor. I
St.
say that because it was a team of people that
Right.
make these
Okay, so
decisions.
the group, the team
Yes.
picked St. Joe's because they have a lot of traffic going on that street, right?
Yes.
And so then it just happened that this little off street, which is Rose Lawn, is gonna get redone.
Well-
Because it's right, what you said was, if it's convenient, you know, because St. Joe's, so it's easy for us to go into Rose Lawn and do that also.
Grading of the streets as well.
And, I'm going to tell you who gave that recommendation. It was the city auditor. Because the city auditor identified that area when we were talking through this. It obviously met the specs, but we were talking about how when people leave the Dairy Queen, they always constantly drive back there in that area. And
There's a lot of people that cut behind the old Great Scots to get to the traffic light because it's safer to get across State Street.
So therefore, if the street has more of a DB and more traffic going through it, of course it's gonna take priority over another street that
Well,
doesn't have as much.
you try to make decisions like that, but you also try to make decisions, because there's a lot of taxpayers throughout the city. So you also want to make sure that you're hitting different pockets of the city. You know, if you remember, when we started to look at our road planning, strategic plan several years ago now, we started looking at focusing on entry points to the city. You guys remember that? We talked about 53, we talked about Tiffin Street, we talked about West State Street, we did that for a while, and then, you know, the coming into Fifth Street off of Hines and that area. And And then we have Hayes Avenue coming up, right? We know that. We have Oak Harbor Road coming up. We know that. Dickinson Street's getting done. That's not an entry point. It's a highly traveled road. You know, so we started to look at like entry points in the city because a lot of those projects seem to score higher like when you're applying for grants and things like that. So the only thing I can say is I feel like I can give an explanation for any street that we've done. It might be a different, there's not a one-size-shoe-fit-all explanation when you're trying to manage this type of infrastructure with limited dollars.
No, and I appreciate the explanation, and I want to elaborate a little bit more. Is the reason why I wanted the explanation is exactly what you stated. The strategic planning involved in that. So it's not that it's out of consideration. It could be in consideration when and if it does happen. It's part of that strategic planning concept.
Well, you have to reevaluate that, right? You don't know, this could pass tonight, it could fail tonight. It could pass tonight and nothing might not be built for 5 years. People change their minds all the time. You're in business, there's no deal signed until it's signed, right?
So
we don't know when it's gonna, when the deal's gonna happen.
Yep.
I can tell you this, I haven't seen any plans for the project. I know that, and the Councilman Leibel's not here tonight, but we had a brief conversation after the council meeting last time. And he said to me, he said, you know, I can't remember for sure, but I almost remember saying that if Mr. Hurt scaled back on the project, that some of the folks, not everyone, because I don't speak for everyone, that may be, that were against us would be for this. And Mr. Hurt scaled back on the project. You know, and I think some of the same people that are against it are still against it. You know, one of the questions that was brought to our attention was a safety issue. Well, what if a fire truck gets back there? How do they get out, right? Well, it was a great question, you know, and I thought about that. Great concern, great question. I think you asked the question, correct? So I went back and I spoke to the fire chief and I said, hey chief, listen, this citizen asked a great question. I took it in. It caught me off guard, but I thought about it. I'm sure this has been thought about. And he's like, well, yeah, that's always thought about. He said, well, Mayor, you got Daywoods. You got that when you drive back there, you're in there. There's a lot of areas like that in the city today that when you get in there, there's still the one way out.
Right.
So I asked the fire chief, is that a concern? He said, absolutely not. I asked the safety service director, is that a concern? He said not. He felt that they would be able to get back to that area no different than they would be today. Okay? So I know the question was brought. I asked the question. That was the answer I received. So if someone from fire chief's not here tonight, telling you, I think the police chief might have been on too. I don't know if he's
I would call that conversation.
Yeah, so it's not that we're not, this isn't no F you from the administration, right? Like, people's concerns are generally heard.
I don't think anybody would take it that way.
Well, I think so. I think people do take it that way, because some of the comments that I've seen, I don't think council is, but this isn't yeah, we got your back. This is us, the city, particularly Bob Gross.
Strategically planning.
Trying to do economic development and grow the city and make sure there's housing for everyone.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question
Okay.
to Mr. Gross about the credit union. I think that the credit union investing in the blighted old Kroger property is great because it's been such a property of neglect for several years. And we don't need to go into the whole conversation about getting a grocery store on the east side because that's been addressed and we know what the obstacles are for that. But my question is, as you mentioned, the questions I've been receiving are, is it creating new jobs? You mentioned the jobs moving to the east side. Are those new jobs or just transfer jobs? And wait a minute, and the second part of that is, will the credit union maintain all their other locations or will they be shutting down other locations?
So I can answer the first question. They currently employ 73 people, I think is what President told me. Once they build and expand, they're looking to add to that 73 and get to 100 employees eventually for the next couple of years after they build. So they are building their new headquarters with the intent to grow. Are they planning to close any other branches? I don't know. I mean, in our conversation, it's been about the build, it hasn't been, what their business decisions are in some of their branches.
So getting back to Mulberry, there's no, if we approve this, does Mr. Hurd have a time frame, or is it just, we don't know?
I don't have that answer.
Just
We're
curious.
just changing zoning.
Pardon?
The point of this is to change the zoning.
Yeah, correct. The first reading was here. I think the original time frame is depending on how this goes, is he'd even try to get a shovel on the ground before the end of the year.
To start.
Yeah. However,
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak about this?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Please state your name and address, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Dan Gardner. I live at 643 Gibson Street. I'm on the corner lot of Gibson and Mulberry. This is my wife, Anna, and we just recently moved into the house 6 months ago, and for many reasons. One of the biggest being how quiet it is and how little traffic there is on both Gibson and Mulberry. Before this, we lived in a rental for 3 years with no yard, busy streets, loud neighbors, and now we have a 9-year-old son who loves riding his bike down Mulberry and playing in our big yard. As a family, we've never had the chance to ride our bikes down the road or enjoy a spacious yard for all kinds of activities. And moving forward with this project would jeopardize both of those things, not just for us, but for everyone on this wonderful street. Building this complex would mean widening the road, which would ultimately reduce everyone's yard space. Increased traffic would make it unsafe for our children to ride their bikes or play outside like they do now. There are plenty of other places in the city to build, and this should not be one of them. When we moved in, our neighbors welcomed us with open arms and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." We all look out for one another here, and it's a very close-knit community we have. Hearing that was music to our ears. So when we heard about the plan to build an apartment complex here, it was a real disappointment, not just for our family, but for the entire community. And it's not just the additional traffic on the road. The water and gas lines aren't set up to support more residents on the street, while other parts of town are. That means taxpayers would have to foot the bill for new utility lines, a new road, and endure the inconvenience of construction. We'd be forced to drive through our yards we work so hard to maintain just to get to work. To me, this is a no-brainer. This is a horrible idea and should not be approved. I ask you to remember the words that welcomed us into this neighborhood and let them guide your decision for this, for my family, for the community, and for our children, and we would all really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Hi.
I'm Ryan Rosen. I am at 804 Mulberry Street, a little bit more calm today. So I just want to start off. I grew up on 1024 Franklin, real good community. Fast forward to 22 Fulton Street, not probably the best of areas. Fell pregnant. We tried to buy a house. It took us 2.5 years trial and error trying to find a house. So I agree. We do need housing really bad because I struggled for 2 years to find a house. Fell on this house on Mulberry Street by coincidence. First thing that I ever got commented was, "You sure you want to do that? What if Hurt tries coming back again?" I said, no, it was told no. Maybe I'll do something. Well, here we are now. I'm okay. Here we are doing the fight. But my thing is, he said, we need housing so bad. We need housing so bad. You cannot sell triplexes. You can rent triplexes, correct? So why not put a house on it? To give a family a house to potentially buy. Not a triplex that is going to be rented. That's what this is all about. You know, we want to increase the east side. We want more housing. We want more houses. Because our real estate market sucks right now. It took me 2.5 years to find a house. So to say that I have a little bit more fight in me because my daughter started her first 2 years on Fulton. We had drive-bys. We had people breaking into our house, into our cars. I had drug addicts. I had everything. I didn't want my daughter seeing that. because I grew up on Franklin. You know, we had the cookouts, we had the fish fries, we had Friday night football. That's what I want for my daughter. So that's why I fought so hard to get to Mulberry Street, because you can run across the street over to the kid's house and play. You can run to the neighbors, the Dennis's, and it'd be okay. So I'm not worried about Cindy Wu walking down the street feeling fantastic or keeping my car unlocked and somebody breaking it. All this stuff is going to do is bring it to our neighborhood again.
Why do you think that? Do you think rentals cause?
No, I think it's just more increase of traffic, more notice of
Maybe, yeah, an increase
there's
in
new
traffic.
people coming around.
But I do think that triplexes or any of Curtis's property have
And I'm not saying that, I'm saying
people
it's
that
bringing,
you wouldn't want into the neighborhood.
right, it's just bringing more people, more population around the area that
Right,
it doesn't currently have.
right.
So it's, you know,
Has
it's gonna be,
Curtis's current buildings created any issues on that street?
as far as like just me,
No, just issues on the street.
I mean, they park on the side of the street, they fly down the street all the time. Right, it's late.
And it's only the renters that do that, nobody else in the neighborhood.
I mean, I know everybody, all my neighbors' cars. I know the green
I'm just
Camaro lives
asking.
in the rental. You know, I know the black Mazda lives in the rental. I know my neighborhood enough to
Is there any
know.
no parking signs on
No,
on
There's
the
not.
sides of the street?
no. But my biggest thing that I wanted to bring to light is, if you wanted economic growth in the east side, people are being intimidated. At least I felt intimidated, like, do you really want to buy because of hurt? Because this was such a big issue 5 years ago that nobody wanted me to put the fight in that I did to get to where I am on Mulberry, just for that to slightly be taken away from me.
Would it be different if the investor wasn't hurt?
No. If you want to build a house, green light, go ahead. Give them a
Also, are
house.
we talking like, 5 years ago, it was a bigger project, and now we're hearing scale back?
But it's still 5 triplexes, correct?
Mrs. Rosen,
I don't know.
when you lived on Fulton Street, were you renting them?
Yes.
Wouldn't you have liked to have a rental property available that you could move into, like one that would be located on Mulberry Street?
We tried,
You couldn't find one, could you?
because they couldn't allow dogs.
All right, I think.
But then that's where people want to buy homes, so they can have the dogs that they want, they can have the land that they want. And that's what a lot of people in Fremont strive for, is to buy homes.
You have
Not to
start
go-
somewhere, and if you can find at least an apartment for rent, then you can start from there and build up and eventually buy a home.
But
I know
but
that
the prices that they're asking,
How would you feel if it was elderly moving in that love kids, that aren't driving much anymore? How do you know that might not be the case because of downsizing?
I'd
I'm
still
just
say
throwing it out
safety,
there.
because the same thing with David, he said it wasn't that issue for firefighters. I think in my head a lot, catastrophes, emergencies, evacuations. Even Daywoods, Delaware, they're all in jeopardy because they have that one lane. And that's how I feel with anything, because I think in the back of my head, if I'm an emergency and I gotta get out with 60 other cars, we're playing bumper cars because I'm getting to the front first. That's how I think, with anything.
I think
That's my safety concern because, I don't know.
I respect your opinion, so that's
Right.
why I got the information for you.
And no, I appreciate that, but it wasn't just, firefighter, it's just the whole world right now.
I get it.
It makes me think of being such big area that you can't escape because you have 60 to 70 other people with you.
If we don't get out of here sooner, we'll be stuck by a storm.
Well, but that's what I wanted to say. Is
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
May I say something?
Yes, Danny?
So she's,
I live on a dead-end street. There's approximately 17 houses. There's approximately 50-some people. We really don't have a problem. Matter of fact, dead-end street is a very welcome thing to these neighbors because these cars have to stop. Do you get people that race down there? Very occasionally, maybe, but it's still a great neighborhood because it is a dead-end street.
Right.
So I don't think that would be something I would shy away from personally. Just my experience and.
And I understand that, I truly do, but when it's an everyday thing and I thought about putting caution things out.
It's been a 40-year, well, it's been longer than that, 70-year everyday thing for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Amy Ridley, 1000 Mulberry Street. Going to make it short and sweet. We all hope that the councilmen have received our emails, reviewed them, and we sincerely hope that you take it into consideration. Has everybody received those? Thank you.
That'll be just a minute.
I'm John Moore, better known as Jack, and live 924 Mulberry. People may or may not remember me, but go back around 25 years, I was a member of both the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board. Paid a lot, $25 a month for one, and the other was free. But I learned at that time that zoning was done for a reason. You don't want to have the residential and the business and the commercial get all in the same place. So the idea was to zone properties so that you wouldn't mix them up with others. And I purchased the property on Mulberry Street 45 years ago. And that was the reason I purchased it. Same thing I hear from my neighbors. We thought dead-end street, nice community. It is a nice community. And you don't have the traffic problems you have elsewhere, especially when the road in front of my house is 8 feet wide. If you got to drive down there both ways, somebody has to pull off the road. It's a 100-foot right-of-way, but the rest is grass. So it just doesn't seem to make sense to put more people at the end of the street, and you're changing the whole neighborhood. It has changed since I've been there. The apartments were there before me because they were there before zoning. I've heard lots of stories about them. But the thing is, at that time, and I know this is just history, we had a number of retired nuns and priests living in those apartments. They had one vehicle, if they had one, and the traffic was very slight. Now, times have changed. People live in there now. They have one garage per unit, and they have 3 cars. So they park on the grass. That's okay. I mean, it's his grass, city property, whichever. But it just seems that when you bring in a community like that, it's going to change the outlook of the whole street. I wonder if any of you people took the time to drive down Mulberry Street. Most people don't know where it is.
We've all been down Mulberry. I looked up the value of every single house on the street. The one with the most value is Curtis's property. His property is worth $623,000.
Oh, sure.
The rest of the properties are worth $170 and under. So I don't think his project will depreciate the value of your properties at all. I think it'll.
You don't think, and all those people?
No.
No. I can't, there's nothing I can say.
I've sold real estate for 40
All I know is when we brought this before the city 6 years ago, the city thumped it down. They realized if you do this and change residential in our street, there's nothing to stop you from doing it in another street. And that case, then you don't really have zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's not that many streets out there with vacant land like that.
And it's an R3 and right next door.
How are you? Dave Almirante, 1528 Sunrise, and thank you for listening. I'll be brief, but first of all, I agree with you. I think that not only are the triplexes, I think they're not a hard sell. There's a lot of investors that would invest in them. And you know, the thing about progress is nobody likes change. It's hard. I get it. The entire city, you know, we are growing, and there's some things that are going to happen. You know, I live on a street that I think is a pretty decent, not, you know, it's fairly well traveled, but when somebody says, oh, they're gonna be racing down the street, I mean, that's you can't.
I
You
have that
can't-
on my street.
Yeah, I have it on my street, and, there's a lot of people out there right now that need a place to live, and they can't afford a house.
No.
And they call us all the time, looking, are we renting houses? They need a place to live affordably, and I don't think that it's fair to say that people that rent houses are, a lower class or whatever. I mean, I know a lot of renters that, single parents or just, like you said, downsizing. We need housing. That's just a matter of fact, we just need it. And we're lucky to have somebody that's willing to do it.
Right.
And do it right. That's the key. Yes, it'll be a busier street, and I'm not trying to discount what everybody on Mulberry said, but, if our town's gonna economically grow, we need more rentals. And right now, it would help because the people that are renting right now are faced with high rents because of the low supply, and there's a heavy demand. So it's going to open up some opportunities for people. And so that's all. I just want to say that. I think it's a project you should support. I know we support it because, again, we need more housing in this town. That's just the bottom line.
Dave, can I ask you a question? What's the occupancy rate right now in Fremont?
The occupancy rate?
Yeah.
It's got to be,
96%?
it's over, yeah, it's not 100%, but it's close.
Vacancy rate is 3%.
Yeah, it's like
90%. The vacancy rate is 3%?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not 97%?
Right. And
so what does that mean then for somebody who wants to rent?
what does that mean? It means they're going to be, there's hardly anywhere to rent, and they're going to be paying top dollar. And I know somebody right now who's renting, and she's faced with her landlord jacking the rent up $150 a month because they got to cover the property taxes in the recent increase, and she's a little bit strapped, but there's no other options. And she's got 2 kids, and needs a place to live that's affordable. So
do you think like couples or singles or families are hurting the most, or everybody?
I'm sorry?
What type of household do you think are hurting the most? Would it be families or couples or singles?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's just people that need a place to live, that can't afford, don't have the money to put a down payment on a house, and...
Family, you look at a family that has 3 or 4 kids, and they're little kids, and the mother stays home, and the father works, that's a struggle. And so how do you save money? Because every penny you make has to go towards something. Clothes, food, medicine, doctor bills, something. Rent, electric, gas. So there is a huge demand.
I have another question that I've been thinking about for a long time. If the properties, now this is a zoning thing, all right, this is not about what somebody's going to build. This has nothing to do with that except the fact that they would be able to build something a little bit different. But if that property down there were converted to homes only, then how many people in comparison to when it's multiple units?
I don't know what the frontage is of that property as to how many single-family lots could be built.
3, maybe 2?
Maybe 3.
But you'd have to get somebody to do it. I mean, that's the key, so.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt.
Okay.
We do have a very severe storm rolling in.
Okay.
I would ask that we use up our business and maybe forego council comments and stuff so that.
Okay.
Vote on this,
Okay.
If there's questions about this, maybe continue to take on this specific topic.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Yeah, I did.
There was a motion.
Yeah, I moved to adopt.
Denny, I move to adopt. Joe Sleek seconded. I'm sorry.
Reese,
Yes.
Sleek,
Yes.
Frazier,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Addie,
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Approved.
Yeah.
First reading of ordinance amending chapter 1127 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fremont entitled Use of Classification Tables.
That constitutes the first reading of the,
First reading of an ordinance amending chapter 1129 of the codified ordinance of the city of Fremont entitled Use Specific Regulations.
that constitutes the first reading of that.
First reading of ordinance amending chapter 1131 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fremont entitled Accessory Use Regulations.
That constitutes the first reading of that.
First reading of an ordinance amending chapter 1179 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fremont entitled Terminology.
Constitutes the first reading of that.
First reading of ordinance to authorize the expenditure and direct the safety service director to enter into a contract with Buckeye Excavating in the amount not to exceed $1,125,455.00 for the 2025 High Street Sewer Separation Project and declaring an emergency.
Madam President, I would ask council to suspend rule 4 so we can project 1. This is actually our stormwater separation part of our long-term control plan as mandated by the EPA. This separates the stormwater basically from the Harrison Street area that is now being dumped in the combined sewer and provides the stormwater to go through filtration into the flood wall.
I move to suspend.
I second.
Jim Sleek moves to suspend Rule 4. Danny Addy seconds. Any questions on the suspension of Rule 4? Roll call.
Sleek.
Yes.
Fraser.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Addie.
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes. Move to adopt.
Christine Weiss moves to adopt.
I can't even get it out of my mouth.
Can't be quick.
I gotta get 3 years under your
Comments
belt.
or questions on this? Okay, roll call.
Fraser.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Addie.
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Sleek.
Yes.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the safety service director to amend the position classification plan and the employee compensation plan for BUAFSCME employees to include building maintenance specialists.
That constitutes the first reading of that.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the safety service director to amend the position classification plan and the employee compensation plan for non-union employees to include cadet and declaring an emergency.
Madam President, I would ask that we suspend Rule 4 on this because this falls in line with our police hiring practices. When we send individuals to the police academy that are not yet certified, therefore we want to pay them, we're paying for their school, for them to be there. We feel that following in suit with what other cities are doing, that we offer a cadet pay, which is lower than a regular officer's pay while they're in school. We're looking to hire or to get a test going fairly soon, so I would ask you to suspend Rule 4 on this.
I second.
Angie Reese moves to suspend Rule 4. Danny Addy seconds. Any questions on the suspension of Rule 4? Roll call.
Weiss.
Yes.
Addie.
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Sleek.
Yes.
Fraser.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Angie Reese moves to adopt. Dan Elder seconds. Any further questions or comments on this? Roll call.
Addie.
Yes.
Elder.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Sleek.
Yes.
Fraser.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Approved.
Reading number 12.
First reading of a resolution authorizing the mayor to prepare, sign, and enter into contracts for submission to the Ohio Public Works Commission for the State Capital Improvement Program, SCIP, and the Local Transportation Improvement Program, LTIP, annually for project funding and declaring an emergency.
Well, that's go for reviews.
Okay. Okay. Due to the weather, I'm going to ask.
Yep.
Nate.
Second.
Christine Weiss makes a motion to adjourn, and Jim Sleek seconds. Roll call.
Elder. Reese.
Yes.
Sleek. Fraser.
Yes.
Weiss. Addie.